For our top story tonight on Gravitas, we focus on the war in Ukraine. After 2 years of intense conflict, multiple stalemates, a failed counter-offensive campaign, and the depletion of thousands of NATO weapons, not to mention the loss of thousands of lives to the Russian assault, Ukraine finds itself with no end in sight to its woes. In fact, a critical Ukrainian stronghold, Avdiivka, has now fallen. Russia has declared its successful capture of this key town in Donbass. And this, by the way, marks Russia's most significant advance on the battlefield in 9 months. And since the fall of Bakhmut last year. Such was the brutality of Russian strikes. Ukrainian soldiers allegedly started retreating from the town even before receiving an order from their top command. Visuals released by the Russian Ministry of Defense showed drone footage of their assault on Sunday. It purportedly shows a chaotic rout of the Ukrainian forces from Avdiivka. Groups of soldiers can be seen attempting to escape the town on foot. The retreating troops face artillery shelling and airstrikes. The Russian Defense Ministry saying that its troops advanced 9 kilometers on the front line. The capture of Avdiivka basically means that the Russian forces can now press forward much deeper into Ukraine. It comes after months of deadly urban battle. Now, before I go any further at this point, let me just explain to you why this is significant. First and foremost, this big gain on the battlefield for Russia comes ahead of the second anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has hailed the capture of Avdiivka as an important victory, and in some ways, it is for Russia. You see, this war has now become a war of attrition. It means that one side is trying to cause the other side to lose so many soldiers and resources that the other side gets worn down and eventually collapses. And the ultimate winner is the side left with more resources. Now, you can deduce which side Ukraine falls on in this case. After 2 years of war, the difference in size between Ukraine and Russia has become more and more apparent. The town of Avdiivka fell after months of relentless and bloody fighting, leaving the Ukrainian troops outnumbered, outgunned, and with dwindling weapons. The last city that was fought for so fiercely was Bakhmut, and that city also fell to the Russians after months of fierce fighting. Now, you must be wondering, what is so special about Avdiivka? And what does this mean as far as the Ukraine war is concerned? Let me break it down for you. You see, Avdiivka has endured a decade of conflict. And this is no ordinary town in Ukraine, by the way. The reason Russians fought so hard for this is because it is key to Russia's aim of securing full control of the Donbass region. It holds a particular symbolism for Russia. In the year 2014, it was briefly captured by Russia-backed separatist forces. They had seized parts of eastern Ukraine. But Ukrainian troops had eventually retaken the town and turned it into a fortress. Since last October, Russia had been launching wave after wave of attacks towards Avdiivka. Yes, for some time, the Ukrainians were able to hold them off with targeted strikes, but it seems that Russia was able to break down their defenses. And now Ukraine has reasons to worry. They have not had the same luck in breaking down Russian fortifications. A much-hyped counteroffensive that was launched last summer showed how Ukrainian troops were no match for the Russians' tough defenses. Ukraine's campaign to retake territories lost to Russia was lackluster, to say the least, and Russia has been able to build its fortifications in a matter of months. Western media reports admit that despite losing thousands of soldiers, Russia has been able to replenish them almost immediately. And now with Avdiivka in their control, Russia could push further to other key cities. This is a major boost for Russian forces on the battlefield. Russia has captured and almost totally destroyed other Ukrainian settlements on the front line. Ukrainian forces saying they are facing attacks from almost all directions. Reports say Russia has concentrated its best trained fighters around Avdiivka. Here, Russia is believed to be dropping almost 60 bombs daily on Ukrainian positions. Apart from being another step in Russia's goal of controlling the entire Donetsk region, Avdiivka's capture will also provide a morale boost for the Russian forces. Moscow's troops have been trying to grind down Ukrainian forces just as Ukraine weighs up a major new mobilization. It also comes at a time when the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has appointed a new commander, remember, to run the war against Russia. With the Ukrainian army under pressure, the Russian military seem to sense a window of vulnerability. And the Ukrainian troops are exhausted after 2 years of combat. Plus, there is a new commander-in-chief, Alexander Syrsky. Let's not forget, Ukrainian troops are also short of ammunition. Russia already holds approximately 18% of Ukrainian territory. Months of Russian strikes meant that in Avdiivka there was no place left to take cover. And this same Russian strategy to obliterate every Ukrainian city on its way worked in the year 2022 when Russia captured Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, remember. The president of Ukraine blames this on the artificial deficit of arms. In fact, while speaking about his troops withdrawing from Avdiivka, Zelensky once again stressed on Ukraine's need for more weapons. He says he spoke to U.S. President Joe Biden. Listen in.
Розмова з президентом Байденом. Дуже важливі акценти.
The conversation with US President Joe Biden, very important points, in particular about Avdiivka and the necessity for the continuation of principled and sufficient support for Ukraine. The talks with the Vice President of the United States were very substantive. Meetings with congressmen, representatives of both parties, both chambers of the American Congress, and each such conversation confirmed the key idea as clearly as possible. Ukraine can stop Putin and create conditions for him to be punished for all the evil he has done.
The withdrawal of Ukrainian forces in Avdiivka is partly due to the insufficient assistance provided by Ukraine's Western allies. Russia has a much larger military force, along with ample artillery ammunition, making Ukraine heavily reliant on U.S. weapons. However, a $95 billion aid package, including support for Ukraine, is still pending for approval in Washington, leaving other NATO allies struggling to bridge the gap. And as a result, Ukrainians are forced to ration weapons, leading to low morale. Reports say that the withdrawal from Avdiivka could just be the start, and this raises concerns about Ukraine's future actions. If Ukraine faces further setbacks, it will raise some serious questions. What happens next? Let's not forget, Putin still wants the whole of Ukraine, and there is a real possibility he might just take it. This potential scenario could either galvanize Western unity so they can prevent such an outcome, or intensify skepticism about Ukraine's ability to win the war, despite its ability to defend itself for a long time. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move. The Wuhan virus may have damaged your lungs forever. Let me just repeat that. The Wuhan virus could have damaged your lungs forever. India's Vellore-based Christian Medical College carried out a study. What did it find? That COVID-19 impacts the lungs of Indians more as compared to Europeans or Chinese. And why is that, you ask? Was the virus racist? Of course not. So what explains the findings of the study? Let's just dig deeper. Now, by now, we all know that COVID-19 hit our lungs the hardest. Patients had dry cough, difficulty breathing. In severe cases, COVID-19 resulted in pneumonia, bronchitis, even acute respiratory failure. Pneumonia is when your lungs are inflamed, they are filled with fluid, and this makes it difficult for the person to breathe. Bronchitis is when your airways become narrow because of too much mucus, your chest is congested, and as a result, you start coughing. Acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS, can be fatal. This is when pneumonia progresses, shortness of breath sets in, and the lungs fail. The person is put on life support. Many don't survive ARDS. Now, we have seen or heard of COVID-19 patients battling these stages of lung infection. Many died battling the severe infection. What about those who survived? What happened to their lungs? And the lungs of those who did not have severe COVID-19 or did not have to be hospitalized? There is evidence to believe that COVID-19 left some of our lungs severely damaged. When researchers studied CT scans of patients in China, they found fibrotic abnormalities in the lungs, meaning the lung tissues were showing signs of abnormalities. And when that happens, often the amount of oxygen entering our blood from the lungs gets impacted. And in this case, fibrotic abnormalities were setting in as early as 3 weeks following the onset of symptoms. This was irrespective of whether the patient had mild, moderate, or severe COVID-19. Scary, isn't it? Another study published in the European Respiratory Journal found that patients had abnormal lung function even 2 weeks after being discharged from the hospital, meaning COVID-19 continued to affect them. Now, what kind of abnormalities are we really talking about here? Reduced diffusion capacity, small airways obstruction. Now, here's what the study conducted in India is saying. For Indians, the lung situation was worse than the Chinese or Europeans. Again, why? Now, one of the theories is more Indians had comorbidities or other underlying diseases, you know, the likes of diabetes or hypertension. And here's another hard fact. For most of us who are breathing the polluted air in Delhi or Mumbai, our lungs are not exactly in their greatest shape anyway. But to point the finger at the exact cause of this disproportionate impact, we will need to read out some lines from the study. I'm quoting here. The difference in the impact of COVID-19 on different racial and ethnic groups is well described. Black, Hispanic, and AIAN people had experienced higher rates of COVID-19 infection and death compared to white people. It appears that our cohort of Indian subjects had more comorbidities and had more impairment of lung function than the European and Chinese patients. In addition, studies have shown that disparities in social determinants of health played a significant role in increased COVID-19 mortality, thus highlighting the social needs of low-income, low-education populations which impact equity in health outcomes, quote unquote. Now, what does this mean for those of you watching the show from India? It basically means that if you have been infected with COVID-19, then chances are the virus left you with lung damage. Could be lasting, could be temporary, could be minor, could also be major. Either way, the virus from China did damage your lung functioning in one way or the other. This India-based study observed 207 people. All of them were infected in the first wave of the Wuhan virus pandemic. They were told to take medical tests 2 months after recovery and rest. And what did the medical tests find? In 44% of the cases, the lung's ability to transfer oxygen to the bloodstream was affected. 35% of the patients had restrictive lung defect. What does that mean? You see, when you breathe in, when you inhale, your lungs inflate, and when you breathe out, they deflate. But here, these people's lungs could not inflate freely. And mind you, this was 2 months after they had recovered from COVID-19, 2 months. On paper, they were supposed to be free of the disease, they were supposed to be healthy, but their lungs were secretly struggling. Their bodies were still struggling to breathe. Well, that's the Chinese virus for you. Technically, the pandemic is over, but chances are you and I are still secretly suffering. Look at what else the study found. 8.3% of the group had what's called obstructive lung defect. What's that? An obstructive lung defect interferes with the inflow and outflow of air to and from your lungs. And you know what's scarier? This study only took into account those who were infected during the first wave. We all know Delta was much, much stronger and deadlier. Imagine how that may have affected our lungs. And what does this tell you? The pandemic may be over on paper, but there is an epidemic of post-COVID complications. But who is paying attention to this health crisis? How many people are talking about how destructive long COVID is? How will you know if your lungs have been hit as well? Only your doctor can tell you that. But people battling long COVID often display brain fog, which means they have difficulty thinking, comprehending, concentrating. Your exercise capacity also is affected. In fact, the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also lists sleep problems, headache, pins and needles feelings, anxiety, and change in smell or taste as symptoms of long COVID. There is also tiredness, fatigue, fever, cough, difficulty breathing, chest pain, joint pain, changes in menstrual cycle. Again, something most women are not briefed about. You see, long COVID is not, and I repeat, is not limited to abnormalities in the lungs. There are different types of post-COVID complications out there. COVID-19 was a new virus. When this virus started spreading around the world, when it actually started jumping borders, when people started falling sick, no one really had any idea how to treat the people, how to cure patients from this virus. So the doctors started targeting symptoms. Patients were put on high-dose steroids. Who knows for sure how the patient's bodies actually reacted to the combination of a deadly novel virus and ultra-strong drugs. And believe me, even now, it may be too early to tell. COVID-19 was only detected in China in 2019, you see. At least that is what China tells us. And if we take that at face value, then this virus is just 5 years old. And to understand how viruses actually leave residual effects, we must look at another virus, another coronavirus that's been around for a while now. I'm talking about SARS-CoV-1. It was first reported in the year 2003 in Asia. The virus spread globally. One study of 71 healthcare workers affected by severe SARS found that even 15 years post-recovery, 36% of the patients had lung dysfunction. 15 years. And what are the different ways in which COVID-19 is likely to have affected us? There are cardiovascular issues. We've seen a spike of youngsters dying of heart attack in the last few years, in fact. Does that have anything to do with COVID-19? Doctors believe so. The Wuhan virus has also, in fact, left us with neurological changes, even gastrointestinal issues. These are things we will never know unless we actually start talking about them. And it is time to start addressing the destructive long COVID. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move. The UK has a new favorite dog. That's right, it's called the Golden Doodle. And it is as adorable as it sounds. This is what they look like. It's a cross between a golden retriever and a poodle. As you can see, it has the color of a golden retriever and the fur of a poodle. So the owners basically get the best of both worlds. Golden Doodles have hyperallergenic coats, and this makes the dogs very easy to care for. Their calm temperament appeals to most British families. These dogs are naturally curious and playful, and they need 1 to 2 hours of exercise a day. They are also very friendly with children and other dogs and pets. Their high intelligence makes them easy to train, and all of these qualities have made Golden Doodles the most sought-after pets in the UK. The Pets for Homes website, which rehomes pets, analyzed last year's data, and it found that every advertised Golden Doodle had close to 1,000 potential buyers on an average. Each of these dogs now sells for over $2,000, but during the pandemic, they were worth over $4,000. The crossbreed dogs have been winning hearts. This includes celebrities as well. Singer Adele has 2 of them named Bob and Freddie. And those with golden doodles include Jennifer Aniston, John Travolta, Usher, Chris Hemsworth, as per various reports. In fact, many golden doodles are celebrities themselves. I'm not kidding. Have a look at this one. Its name is Brody. It has some 13 million followers on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube combined. Last year, in fact, the dog earned his owner, Cliff Brush, nearly $1 million, all through viral videos and brand deals. And it's not just golden doodles, by the way. Poodle crossbreeds in general are very famous in the UK and elsewhere. They often have the appearance of teddy bears, while golden doodles attracted the highest number of buyers. Maltipoo came in 3rd, Labradoodles were at the 6th place, and Cavapoos at the 7th spot. The poodle crossbreeds also backed the top 4 places on the list of most searched for dogs. This was again according to a Pets for Homes industry report. And the website also reported a sharp decline in the sales of toy dogs. This includes chihuahuas and common flat-faced puppies like the French Bulldog, Pugs, Cavalier, King Charles Spaniel, Boxers. This is not necessarily because of how they look, but because of their health and maintenance requirements. You see, all these breeds run a higher risk of having health issues as compared to other dogs. There was a time when stars like Reese Witherspoon would be seen sauntering down the red carpet with a cute puppy in tow. It was called the era of the celebrity handbag dogs. What about India? Which is India's favorite dog? It's again a crossbreed, but not a poodle. Indians have a soft spot for the Labrador retrievers. And as the name suggests, it's a cross between a Labrador and a golden retriever. They are friendly, medium to large working dogs known for their exceptional intelligence and gentle nature. And apart from that, German Shepherds, golden retrievers, beagles, pugs, and Indian mastiffs are other breeds that are quite popular among Indians. Labrador retrievers are also a favorite for Americans, in fact. So are Australian Shepherds, which are also famous in Germany. And for the Chinese, it's pugs and huskies. For the Japanese, it's Shiba Inu. For Russians, it's Doberman. And as it turns out, Rottweilers are the most famous dogs in the world, as they are the #1 dog breed in 34 countries. What about you, though? Which one do you have at your home? Or which one is your favorite if you ever decide to have one as a pet? WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.